expect a lot of conversations about robust discussions
There
occurring.
you go. That's all I need. The first item on our agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak tonight?
Hi, my name is Aaron Hunter, 14 Kimball Way. I'd like to start, I'm a little bit nervous during, I'm a little bit nervous always during the public comment. I was going to write an email, but Phil said I should show up and talk, so you can blame him. I just wanted first to share, I just looking over the past meetings, it seems like there's kind of more of a conversation about going towards more moving the school underneath as a department under the town. There's a discussion about doing more of a traditional council manager government. I have experienced both as a school teacher in the state, both in SB2 town and then now as a one where the school was part of the department under the city. There are a couple of disadvantages putting the school underneath that. The biggest one is with hiring, because of the way hiring is done in the school systems within New Hampshire. Most hiring takes place in May and June, and a lot of times my experience has been that under a city government that the budget isn't finalized until June. So as a result, it's very hard to fill positions they need to until that budget's approved. When I left SB2 town and went to a one more traditional underneath the city, that I technically had to break my contract because I had to accept the position I was given originally at SB2 town, and then when the city could finally hire me was in July 1st, and simply because of how their budget is. And then the other thing is that oftentimes my experience is, I say this both as someone in Virginia where they had the county commission, where the school board had to ask a budget, ask the county board of supervisors to approve their budget, and then also now here under more of the traditional city government, that it's very hard to put a school district in a vision because you have to, the superintendent first has to work with the school board to get the budget behind a vision, and then they have to go to a city, and because they haven't looked at the city as closely, it's much easier for the city, that town council, to say no to it. Obviously, you guys would be much more educated on this, and I'm sure you guys are talking to the appropriate people to get more information, but I just wanted to share that experience that I've had. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to get a pen that works.
I'm sorry, your name, your last name again?
Hemker, you need me to spell it?
Sure.
Haemker.
And you served on the school board as well.
I did,
For
yeah.
A couple terms.
Some great
Two
ones.
terms?
Sorry?
2 terms?
It was one, and I left very quickly. So, no.
It was 1, it just felt like 2.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your information and your feedback. The next item on our agenda is acceptance of minutes, and we have one meeting, the minutes from July 8th. And I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I'll let you
Patrick
figure
and
that out,
Dan.
Phil. We've spoken.
I got this. I figured this out.
Yeah, I had one comment.
Sure.
I'm still not clear. The minute said that we have a line item, the Budget Committee has a line item adjustment capability. I don't think that's true from what I heard. I thought that we could adjust, the Budget Committee, we now know, can adjust the total number, but I don't think it has a line item, and I just wouldn't want that in the minutes if it wasn't correct. So, I don't know if anybody else heard differently or I misheard.
I thought the gentleman that spoke to us did sort of allude to the fact that the budget committee could make line item adjustments. Not allude to, state that they could.
If that's true, I think we need to nail it down at some point, and I don't care about changing the minutes, especially if I'm wrong in that, but I was unclear when I read it, that it didn't come out that way.
I'm unclear too. I don't think we do, I don't think it does. And I don't recall hearing him say that.
and then we can they can take the money any way that's approved and allocate it any way they want, so how much you actually have that. But all I want to do is I want it to be accurate, and if we don't know, then whether we need some interpretation from.
So as I recall the conversation, he said the budget committee could make line item adjustments, and also that when it comes to the administration, they can move monies around. So the budget committee could change the line item, all that goes on the warrant is the bottom line. And so functionally, what looks like got changed was the bottom line, and the administration can move its budget around however it sees fit.
And if that's absolutely accurate, you're positive?
I'm positive that's what was said in the room. I am not positive that is actually factually correct in terms of the law.
That's always been my understanding.
Point of
So
procedure,
that's
the
how
minute should just reflect what was said
What was said
in the room. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
you know, right or wrong.
Yeah. So I can say anything and make it in the minutes. And then,
I still want to clarify it at some point.
Yeah, great question.
All right, so, all in favor of accepting the minutes from July 8th?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Bart McDonough and Eric Boderman are both here to talk about planning and how that might dovetail with the work that that we're trying to do here on the Charter Commission. So, I'll start with, yeah.
So I think there's Bart McDonough, my director. First, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Second, I think there's two aspects in the charter where planning is mentioned. It's capital improvement program and also the board itself, the makeup of it or how it's elected or appointed. So I guess I'll start with capital improvement plan. Right now, it's a committee. There's two ways of doing it in New Hampshire. It could be the planning board that oversees it or a committee. Newmarket has elected to do a committee. And this isn't, uncommon in the area and elsewhere in the state for the size of Newmarket. It's really, there's no real logic behind it. It's just what the community decides to do. So I was looking at, just trying to get a sense of what other, just trying to get in my notes here. Other communities, do it the way Newmarket does, which is through a committee. And so I did it by population that's similar to Newmarket around the state and also our neighbors. So for instance, let's see, our neighbors, let's say Rochester, Hampton, and Raymond, they do it by committee. And then the rest, Barrington, Durham, Somerville, Exeter, Portsmouth, Dover, the planning board administers it. And then by population, we have the town of Amherst, Hampstead, Franklin, Litchfield, Bow, they all do it by committee. And then Hollis, Berlin, Conway, planning board. So it's really it's up to the municipality and how they want to do it. Advantages, disadvantages, in my opinion, of that. If it was a committee, the advantage is you get diverse opinion. It's not just the planning board that's doing it, so you can reach out to wider swath of the community to participate in this process. I see that as an advantage. I think the disadvantage of that is trying to get people onto the committee. I think right now we're having a hard time here in Newmarket getting volunteers for the committee. So right now we have maybe 4 or 5. I think it's around 9 that's allowed. So that's the disadvantage right now. And then for the planning board, the advantage would be that they're very familiar with the master plan, especially right now. We're going through a comprehensive update, which I can talk about later. I see that as an advantage there because they're very familiar with it. They're regularly scheduled meeting. It's an elected board. It's all it's a full board at the moment. It's usually has limited vacancies. And then it could, be a regularly occurring agenda item on, how are we doing with our capital improvements? We can check in with different folks, different department heads, or at least, they can send a memo or a note, or I give an update. I can do that already, but, it'd be a more formalized process. So that's where I see the advantage, going back to the planning board. As for the process itself,
Can I ask a question? We have a CIP that covers both the school and the town. Would it be appropriate for the school to be a function of the planning board for putting together and administering the CIP?
So if the school were to become a department?
Nope, just the way it is now.
Yep, so they already participate in the process, so.
Right, but my question is, they're participating in a process not managed by the planning board,
Correct.
which is a town function. Is that an issue?
Not necessarily. It is working, great. In my experience, this past 3 years, no. We've had, I think it's worked pretty well. Where it's difficult is it's just two different budgets, two different entities. Even though we're collaborating through this process, it's still separate, if you will, in a way. At least in my opinion, it is. So the planning board. So if your question is, would it be more a benefit if the planning board had more say? Again, the planning board cannot or the CIP committee cannot recommend it, and they could still, the school board can still propose it. It's just a recommendation to the town manager or to the school board.
I think that what you're getting at is whether or not the planning board is more or less independent than the CIP committee as it is now. And my take is as it is now, because the planning board is its own elected body, it's more independent than the CIP committee that is appointed by the town council.
I agree with you.
So, I don't know if that's kind of what you were getting at with your question.
If I'm sitting I'm putting together a CIP for the school, and I'm reporting to the planning board, and I'm kind of going, I don't think I like that too much. But maybe I'm making an issue that isn't an issue.
Because at the end of the day, it's still a recommendation.
We're trying to put some, okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean,
Go ahead.
as it currently stands.
Yep.
As you're looking at things, and sorry if I'm the confused one, but, because I was chair of CIP for a lot of years, we made a recommendation to the town council, and during my time, we got the school to finally participate because they wanted to share in some of the town's revenue. But in no case was it anything other than a recommendation, and both the school board as an independent entity and the town as an independent entity put in their own number in the budget for what they were willing to contribute to the CIP. So CIP would make a recommendation, whether it's to the town council or the school board, and then the town manager and the school board would make their own determination of what money they want. So thank you for the recommendation, and we may have, but we're in charge of making it. So is there any planning board that actually has budgetary power?
No, it's a similar, they vote on it. So there's different ways of going about it, where there's a back iterative process where if it's a CIP committee, they first review the proposals, they send it back to department heads, town manager, they come back with their recommendations, it's voted on, and then it goes through as a recommendation, it goes back to city manager, town manager, and then he puts it in the budget.
But he's the one who determines the final number.
Correct.
So I think we're getting to the crux of the challenge of the CIP as, and also former member of the CIP, that, or one of the challenges with the committee, is that it is functionally serving as a capital reserve fund, like allocation committee, not a like capital improvement planning committee. It's functioning as a budgetary function. The work that is done by that committee tends to be budgetary in nature, not actually like capital improvement focused in nature. While it is capital improvement budgets, please correct me if I'm wrong, Bart, this has been my experience on it, that most of the time is spent talking about how much money are we going to request. That we functionally knew, ultimately the town manager would say, well, this is how much I want to put in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the flaw of the process, and it's driven by state law. But I think where it can be improved, if there's kind of cohesion within town government on, making sure that those requests are reflecting the master plan and always keeping up with it. And so I think that's where that check-in comes in a lot into play, where as you're going through budget development cycle, different department heads check in with the plan board. They have a conversation where they're at right now, what capital improvements they foresee coming in the future, and then they, corroborate that with the master plan and say, okay, does this really, having that conversation of what is needed and does it reflect the master plan and its intent?
In your opinion, if the planning board was overseeing the capital improvement plan, would that create greater alignment between what capital improvement projects get proposed and resourced and the master plan than it currently exists? Or have we found a way to continue that alignment?
I think it'd be a better understanding of the projects. I mean, I won't speak for the planning board.
I don't want to add work to their...
Yeah. I haven't experienced a CIP with just the planning board, only what we have right now. And so, I think the challenge for me, or for the board right now, or the CIP committee, it's a short period of time. There's not a lot of discussion within the year or check-in with department heads to understand their needs. And I think where we're at disadvantage right now, I think where we're going to be better in the future is once we have a updated master plan. Some of our chapters are 20 years old, so don't really reflect what the community is currently and its needs. I think it would be a better process, no matter which way it goes, planning board or CIP committee. I don't know if Eric, you want to talk about that?
Hello. So Phil, I think it really doesn't matter. The planning board isn't built to manage finances. The CIP goes through their gyrations. The planning board votes on it. It wouldn't matter if the planning board was doing it. The planning board would just be listening to it, but they're not built to do that, especially when they have other things on the agenda. The CIP has always been like a secondary thing, not paid a lot of attention to.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's one of the things we're wrestling with is how to integrate these processes so they work together.
Right.
As a planning tool, not just we've repeatedly said here, it's not just a budget tool, it's a planning tool.
Right.
And we don't think it's working very well. Right?
Yeah, it's up to
Some
each
of us
department to, the way it is now, and the way it would be with the planning board, if the planning board manager, each department comes up with what they think their long-range plan is, right? It's typically, in government people don't think 20 years down the road, right? They want to make sure they can get whatever they need for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Right. And I'm no fault of it, just the way the process is. So there isn't a lot of long-term planning done, even in the CIP.
Right.
Right? I mean, we need equipment for DPW, we need equipment for the police department, we need equipment for the fire department, but nobody's looking what they need 20 years from now or 15 years from now.
Did you?
Excuse me.
As far as what it sounds like it's confusing to many of us is if you build a capital plan about what your needs are, whether they're 20 years, 5 years, 7 years, and I would agree, I haven't seen anybody with a 20-year horizon, but I've certainly seen people
School
with
district
five,
has it.
yeah, 5 to 10 years at least out. And that capital plan coming up from the department heads to whoever is in control of that budget should end up depicting what equipment is needed and when and what the costs are, so that you can at least roll up the number and have knowledge of what you think the needs are to support that department and that. The fact that whatever number comes up, if you have 10 projects, each needing $10,000 and it's $100,000 you should contribute, and somebody says, well, gee, we can only afford 20, then at least you have, hey, we told you so. This is what we really needed, but it's not connected to the decision at all. And which priorities are put on for that are usually done by the school board as a rationalization, or the town council as a rationalization, saying, we can't afford all that, but here are the 2 things that we're supporting, and so we'll put some money away for that. It's a process of frustration for the people that are involved. If they do the job of saying, I'm trying to clearly tell you the needs of the future, and in the final analysis, there's an administrative decision made on whether we fund any of it or not.
So, and I'm trying to come back to what the Charter Commission can do, right? We can like amend what the Charter Authority, what the authority the Charter gives, obviously cannot supersede statute, that, because like Eric said, that whether a CIP committee did it or planning board, like it would be, like the department heads would come with like, here are the things we want to do. Like I'm wondering, is there a way, either be the charter or probably process is more like it, that we could be, hey, when department heads come with, this is what we want to do for our capital improvement plan for our department, and then there's one, or like org-wide, sorry, town-wide one, think of business, that it's checked against the master plan for like, hey, these are the things that the planning board thinks need to be accomplished. We need water out to here. We need like roads like maintained at this level in this area. We need like, what are the capital projects that are going to advance our master plan achievement of their goals? That's the one place right now where I feel like there's do you? I mean, I don't know
I
if you
agree.
think-
That's difficult, though. That's difficult because, all the department heads, in my opinion, they're trying to survive for another year, right? So they're not concerned about what's going to happen 10 years from now or 20 years from now. That's a master plan thing. I agree. But it's hard to budget for that when people are looking at their jobs and trying to do their job properly for the next year. It's like being a manager of a football team, right? A coach of a football team. You don't draft a bunch of young kids and not play them and lose your job, before they get, you got to take care of what's in front of you right now, and that's what the department heads have to do. And then at the end of the day, nobody involved in the system has any say in what happens. Somebody else makes the decision.
I'm one, and this is really, I'm getting it. But would it be possible, even anecdotally, as the CIP is being managed for the next from the department head standpoint for the next year, to require them to comment at the bottom of their, is this consistent with the master plan? Is an element of it? Would that make any difference, do you think?
I think a lot of stuff from the CIP is so far down the ladder, so low that it's really not visible in the master plan. Like the master plan doesn't say we need to buy a new police car every year or every 2 years. That's what the CIP is doing. They're not looking at the big picture.
Yes, and like there's also CIP projects. Probably like you probably speak better than I can, right? But there's like stormwater mitigation. There's multiple other like the water. I certainly know that the water and sewer department has like major capital, like that are like very much like this is what I think the community needs to keep running. That I mean, I wonder like are there maybe the problem's in the process of like department heads coming with wish lists, which has been the process since I've known it, to more the community or like the administration or some body saying, here's what we need to advance the plan, the master plan. Here's the municipal projects, the capital projects that need to be funded. And then like that gets, and the departments are more focused on annual operational budgets.
Correct.
I would say, I'm sorry, Ken, I'm just going to interject for a second. I would say like Sean does a phenomenal job, right? So, and he's been able to do that consistently as long as I've been involved. And I think sometimes because it's also a really concrete job that he has, right? Like he can look and say like, okay, we need to update X, Y, and Z. He also has the benefit of being able to and, you know, apply for like these other funding sources that might not be as readily available for a dump truck.
Right.
But that model is, I mean,
And there's a whole series of laws that he has to abide by.
Right.
And you have to stay ahead of the curve to do that. I mean, look, the CIP is a lot better now than it was 10 years ago when I was on the council, when you couldn't even get the department head, some of them, to even give you a number. Right? I mean, it's a lot better. It's never going to be perfect, but I don't think it's ever going to turn into a long-range planning the way it's set up. I just don't see it.
Dan.
There's one other difference of opinion that kind of undergirds the whole conversation that we haven't really brought up yet, is if you know you're going to have to spend $5 million on fixing or expanding a water system 5 years from now, there's two ways you can go about that. You can set aside $1 million a year for the next 5 years, or you can just say, no, I'm going to bond $5 million when we get there. And we're kind of having this whole discussion as though option A is the way we think the town ought to be going. Distinctly, the council has had a preference for option B for quite a while, and reinforced by, I think, the town manager having a strong preference for option B. I'm not saying the two can't exist in the same universe, but they take you to fundamentally different places in terms of a capital planning process. Option A takes you to, well, how much should we be putting in this year's budget to set aside for this thing we need to do in 5 years? Option B says, how do we manage the town's bonding capacity in such a way that we know the borrowing space is there when we get, and I'm not going to,
I agree that's what it looks like, but the issue of grant funding, it can't be ignored. It's probably the main reason that option B is taken, because you don't know how much money you need until after you've applied for all the grants. And the grants can be quite substantial.
Good. Thank you for the clarification, but I feel like we keep having this conversation as though option A is the preferred option. I don't think you're going to find universal agreement on that.
No, you're right. We need a new water tower. We need a second water tower so that we can drain our water tower, and that's like a big, and I have proposed option A. Let's start putting some money away, right? And that was killed.
Well, but also, water and sewer is unique because it's just a small portion of town. 3/4 of people in this town don't care one way or the other, but because they're not paying for it. Let them do whatever they want to do. No, I'm not saying it's right, but that's the way it is. So it's probably the biggest expense next to the school that we got to pay attention to. But
I'm wondering if this revolves somewhat around cost. $1 million, could we use $1 million or $2 million as a threshold for an expense that should be in the CIP and master plan? The school's going to put in a
swimming pool.
A swimming pool that's it's
is it heated?
I don't. Yeah.
Maybe even put one in Riverwoods too.
And Dan, I don't want to give you any ideas. That's not the intent. But I'm just
too late.
But I'm just wondering if fire trucks are still under $1 million, I think.
Oh,
They're sneaking
Maybe.
up there.
We don't buy fire trucks anymore.
I
We
would
lease them, yeah.
But anyway, to my point, I'm just wondering if a cost factor, which would address all of what we're talking about, whether we put money away every year, whether we seek.
Can I interrupt for a
Oh,
second?
absolutely.
One of the issues that is, it's part CIP, but, look, the way government works is you take last year's budget and you look at it and go, how much more can I get next year? There is no such as zero budgeting. You know, they don't start at the bottom, they don't start at zero and budget up. They say, all right, last year we had $10 million, this year I can get 5% more. And that's the same thing with the CIP. You know, it ultimately comes down to one pot of money. So at the end of the day, somebody is making a decision on how much should we ask for. And the budget committee makes a recommendation, right? It's only a recommendation. And so it's all, you know, the whole thing revolves around what was last year's budget and what can we afford, what do we really need, and what is palatable to the council, the budget committee, and the taxpayers.
I applaud the planning process. I applaud the CIP process because I think you need, even if it turns out to be the I told you so 7 years later that said, gee, I told you you had to invest in 2 fire trucks, and since we didn't do that. So I think the process is a worthwhile one, how we use the information, and let's add in how you account for it, because leasing, one of the reasons leasing is so popular around the joint is leasing goes into your operating budget. It's not in the capital budget. So, for example, and believe me, there are many thousands of leasing projects. Let's build a water tower, and then we'll lease it back to the municipality at $100,000 a year. And that $100,000 for the accountants is treated as an operating expense because it's a lease payment. You don't have to have a capital budget. You don't have to have a borrowing. All you have to have is an investor who's willing to put up a water tower because he believes he's going to get a lease payment from you. And that $100,000, that's how we get fire trucks, I'm assuming, today. And thank God for the accountants. But it ends up taking a capital thing based on a long-term need and turning it into, can I squeeze $100,000 into an operating budget for a lease payment? So what the goal of all that is, I still applaud the CIP process that says, I think you're going to need these things in the future. I applaud the planning process that says, here's the future that I see, and there's a disconnect. But I don't see how you end up getting the money equation solved, be it bond, be it lease payment, be it whatever.
So, a couple things. One, we were making lease payments out of the capital reserve fund for a while, and I think it has finally moved over to operating budget, but we literally used the fire capital reserve fund to make lease payments.
Okay,
The
that's where we had the money.
yeah, man.
We didn't have to raise
Go
it.
follow the money. Just
It's
follow
like-
the money. Like it's
We didn't have to
hands.
raise
It's like, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money
Yeah,
is.
that's right.
As a banker,
But I almost think, to me, the funding mechanism is not immaterial, but a secondary conversation to what are the capital improvement activities that we want to invest in as a community in order to support achieving our goal that is codified in the master plan. The master plan says we want to be this and that and all like, and I know it's a work in progress right now, and there's misalignment right now, or a lack of purposeful alignment between these are the, because we get a lot of requests in the CIP, or the CIP gets a lot of requests, and they're all well-intentioned and they're all great. But if you look at the master plan and say, this is what our priorities are, so a track would be nice, but does not seem to fall within the priority, or a track would be nice and seems to fall within the community that the master plan is codified, we're trying to create here, it feels like there's a missing alignment there that then how do we fund it? Like then it's like, well, what years are things happening? Which things are bonded? Which things are capital reserve funded? That's a second conversation to what the heck do we really think are the important things to do in the first place? And like right now we get, everything's important, and everything's good, everything's great, and then let the town manager sort it out.
I wonder if that's something that the Charter Commission can
So
sort
I'm wondering,
out, though.
is there
I don't
something
know
we
that-
can do in the charter to make the clarity of the linkage?
Right.
Like create
Yeah.
like clear direction of the linkage between the two? Okay, that's my question, because I feel like we have so limited authority here other than saying what the charge of it is.
I have to leave in a few, but
Okay.
can I kind
Please.
of change the subject real quickly? I'd say probably a year ago, I had a conversation with Steve about the planning board being elected versus appointed. At that time, I told him I didn't have a problem with it, with the board being being appointed. Since then, I've changed my position on it. I think it should remain elected. It gives it autonomy. I do a lot of work in Massachusetts I'm dealing with a lot of planning boards and whatnot. In Massachusetts, they're appointed, and politics comes into play way too often, in a lot of boards, not just planning boards in Massachusetts. But so I think having the planning board be autonomous is better. And quite honestly, it's tough to get people to run, but if you can't get people to run, if somebody doesn't want to run, they really shouldn't be appointed either, So it gives you more diverse, it gives you the potential for more diverse points of view on the board. I know if I've set up committees before, and, if I had a chance to set up a committee, I set up with the way I wanted them to think.
I agree. And Val was kind enough to send a letter, I don't know who had a chance to read it, but she talked about representation, autonomy, accountability, volunteerism, longevity, and most importantly, I think, expertise that you get from the planning board. I think is a stellar example of something that's really running well.
Yeah, I think by and large
And I
it is. I
think-
mean,
yeah.
there's processes to go through, and I think the board as it is now listens to everybody and makes decisions appropriately, I think.
And there are no open seats, and there are alternative people who come to every meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Patrick, did you have something?
Yeah, well, I wanted to kind of get back to Phil's question about, the master plan and the CIP working together. And so my question for Bart would be, Bart, can you think of an example where you could think of the master plan helping to guide the CIP process? Can you, since you've been embedded in it now, the last year?
For example, I could see, take for instance, there's a new chapter being developed for the downtown riverfront. There's a lot of recommendations within that matrix for capital improvements. Shanda Park, there's trail network, infrastructure. So that would be an example, maybe that nexus between the CIP and the master plan, funding such improvements or studies, or anything related to achieving that goal. So that'd be one example. Another one I can think of, sidewalks, pedestrian connectivity, making sure, the plan would, if adopted as written, would, there'd be a nexus between, and then the sidewalk infrastructure throughout the community and saving money for that. So if, say, DPW wanted to continue saving within the capital reserve sidewalk fund to achieve, that goal, a rational basis. What we're trying to do here is create a rational basis for requests. That's the idea, and that comes through looking at the master plan, look at the intent. So if there's some gray there, then you have that discussion. Is it, you can't enumerate everything. so you got to have that discussion on, well, does it end up achieving this goal that we agreed upon, or the planning board agreed to set. Kind of switching gears, because I want to go back to what you can do as a charter committee. I'm looking at 5.7. That's sort of the CIP. I'm looking at D, and I'll just read verbatim. D says, at least annually or more often as the council may direct, the manager shall submit to the council a status report on implementation of the capital improvement plan for a current year and financial statements of all capital accounts. So, monthly, biannually, or you can say, department heads have to, I don't want to create more work, but, department heads have to, report to the planning board on a, quarterly basis to give an update. So you can create procedures that, that's not with outside the guardrails of the RSA. So I think there's some flexibility there.
Russ?
I keep on coming in, we talk about accountability. What is the accountability for the town and the school to agree with the master plan and focus on that as something that drives them in their budget process versus it's a master plan, it's a CIP plan, and we have two entities who end up making financial decisions, and there's no way to push all those pieces together. Recruiting people saying, let's do good work and get the master plan done or the CIP plan done, and I'm hearing the same from you, is there are great people involved, and then can't fill the positions because over time people may get frustrated in the fact that it was a great plan, everybody loved it, but nobody adopted it. Or, gee, we had priorities in the capital plan, but that's not the way things are going. If we don't have the power to change any of that, then if that accountability doesn't work through the process, that the town council or the school board has to listen to the planning board or adopt some of that, or CIP, then I don't know if we have the proper weights and balances to get that done.
I think the biggest element that we're forgetting about is the public. They're not participating in these discussions because, life. It's really hard. I think there's efforts, there are efforts to try to change this, but how do we get more public participation in these discussions? Because right now, different boards and committees are talking to each other on how we want to proceed, and then at the end of the day, it's the voter voting for these priorities. It's the town council putting it on the warrant, passing the budget to be voted on. So again, how do we bring more conversation? There's a avenue for the public to submit their own capital improvements. That's possible under the RSA. So it can be more of a community process instead of a
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Russ, the disconnect you're talking about goes a lot deeper than just our town. Look at the RSA. The RSA says if you want to collect impact fees, you have to have these documents. Nowhere does the RSA say, and oh, by the way, the municipal government actually has to use them as a planning and budgeting tool.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a discipline that maybe we could impose on ourselves through changes to the charter, but on the flip side, I guess, be careful what you wish for, because, that is something that I wrote down earlier when we were talking that stuck is, we're debating a lot about what the authority of the CIP committee should or should not be, but with authority has to go accountability. So if you're going to give the CIP committee authority, how do you also create accountability so that you're not getting people appointed by the council creating a plan that nobody in their right mind would think that our tax rate can fund?
Yeah.
I hate to throw a pail of ice water on this, but I'm kind of getting that feeling, particularly, Eric, with something you said earlier about most government operations look at next year and the following year and don't plan for or frankly care too much about 10 years from now. If you were to go to a meeting of any major company that shareholders demand to look at what's the next 5 years, what do the revenues look like, what do your capital expenses look like? Do you, what are your bonding issues, what are you, and I'm wondering whether that's just the way local and state governments work, that it's really an annual, at best, 2-year out lookout. And we're asking it to do something that it doesn't by its very nature operate.
Just say one thing,
I will have,
water and sewer does,
extend.
yeah, he has like 40-year plan.
So,
Agreed.
so I think it's department specific. I generally agree with Eric, that, it is year by year, in some departments. But I think, just from my observations, we're trending towards a more long-range approach. And I think that just comes to the the departments themselves and what they're trying to achieve. So I think it's, I think we have a lot of, past, 4 or 5 years, Newmarket's brought on some folks that have more of a long-range approach. So I think it's the quality of, the departments
as well at the same time.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
So, I think it also could potentially benefit the departments with that long-range approach to also know, like, where are we trying to get, right? Like, so, like, I think there is no ill-intentioned request to, like, for capital improvements that come out of the departments, but there's also, it's very bottoms-up. There's no top-down. There's no, like, hey, department heads, at least in my experience, like, here are the priorities for, like, what capital improvement projects would you propose in order for us to achieve this set of priorities for the community and attempt to actualize the master plan?
So I think, okay, oh, sorry.
No, please.
Okay, so I think maybe something to consider council, they just did their priority. Maybe add a line item to that priority, capital improvement. What should we achieve what should be a priority this year to focus on? So there might be something to add more, let's say, give them more opportunities to talk about it and then, act on, improving. Yeah.
Like, yes, and those are annual priorities, right? Like, they're, to Eric's point, they're driven by necessarily annual operating budgets. And it's where, like, the CIP and the master plan, like, the two places that out there is really considered. And, like, if they're not, like, anything we could do as a charter committee or as a charter commission to put in the charter something that's like, those two documents should be somewhat in alignment, feels like we are creating. So, last time we had one of these things, we made the school board and the town councils need to sit down once a year. And you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Like, some years they're great, robust conversations. Other times it's just like, what? Or, okay, we're just talking, like, right? But I do wonder if there's ways we could systematize. They at least need to get together and talk about the alignment of the two at least once or twice a year.
I think you could do it under A. I'll check out section A. Sorry.
I just had an aha moment. My aha moment is one of the things the charter committee can do is to define the role of the chief executive officer, the job description of the chief executive officer. What about we put in the charter, or consider putting in the charter, that the CEO is required annually or quarterly or whatever to present the department focus on objectives as they relate to the long-term plan. There's no such reporting done right now. And I was just thinking in my earlier statement, that's what the CEO of a corporation does. You do it in your company, I do it in mine. I'm responsible going to the investors and say, here's how things are looking. Here's what we're getting in for money, here's what we're spending out. Here's what we're gonna need to buy 11 new trucks, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, what I was gonna say
Go.
is that, and I think Phil brought it up earlier, it comes down to accountability. there has to be a mechanism where people are held accountable
Right.
for things that don't work and they get credit for things that do work. But there has to be some accountability. Right now, there is nothing, right? I mean, you can talk about the school board and the council meeting every year. They're all elected people. If they decide not to, nothing's going to happen. But the people that work for the town, that are getting paid by the town, they can be held accountable for what the good stuff they do, they can get credit for, and the stuff that doesn't work, they need to be held accountable for.
Ask him, the CEO.
Just interested, when you talk about the water system, and the sewer system, that's self-funding.
Right.
And I think the reason that it works, at least in our opinion, so much better of coordinating long-term strategies is that the revenues and the expenses are all contained together through rates and through long-term plans. We have a disconnect between long-term plans and revenue sources in both the school and in the town, and it's only the tax rate, okay? And that's the reason I think that Sean's been so successful, because he has a mechanism in place and he's pushed to explain that and to plan that out. We don't have that motivation other than, gee, you should think about long-term plans and you should have a planning board, putting out, but until we get some kind of accountability, and that's the only thing.
He has a dedicated income stream.
I think that the revolving fund for the rec is, it's sort of similar, right? Like so she has some money to work with, so she can plan differently, and I think it gets
Once
to.
she found that 5
Right.
years ago or 6
Yeah.
years ago, it's been that, yeah.
And I think it gets to Eric's point too, where, people are, like the other department heads are operating year to year because they don't know what's gonna happen to their budgets. I
Right.
mean, it's not their fault that they're not necessarily and I won't say that they're not planning, because having worked with Rick and Greg and everyone, they are planning, they just can't plan on having the money.
Right.
So it's not that they're not planning for the future, they just can't rely on the council or the voters to ensure that they have those funds.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
Sean has a pie, and the whole pie is his. Every other department in town, there's a pie, the taxpayers' money, and they all fight for it, like a bunch of dogs. You gotta convince, I'm serious.
True.
You gotta convince the administrator that this is more important than that, or, whatever, and that's how, unfortunately, that's how it's set up. And that's how governments always seem to run.
And I mean,
Right.
it's even a little worse than that right now, because, both, maybe less so the town, but the town and the school district to some extent are dealing with a huge amount of uncertainty in our state and federal funding. Which, every year, that's a significant part of the budget, and, God help you if you're dependent on the Department of Education right now, because there's no guarantee it's going to exist in a month.
Right.
And very similar with the state budget.
And the problem is, so, I think like I said before, so, I'll take Rick for instance, DPW, right? He can't come up with a plan and say, this is what I need in 10 years, and not take care of the stuff he needs in the next 2 years, because he won't be there in 10 years to manage it, because he'll, so it's a tough situation, but I don't see it changing. And, the CIP I don't see how it ever becomes a true long-term, long-range planning, unless, I think Al had said it earlier, unless you set a monetary number, anything over $1 million has to be CIP or whatever. That can be problematic too, but I just don't see it changing. It's just the nature of the beast. Government is not set up to be run efficiently. It isn't. But it can run, most every government can run more efficient than they run, but they're not set up to run efficiently. They're set up to be a safety net.
And there are opportunities that come up. The flip side of that is that there are opportunities that come up, and this has happened with water, it's happened with other departments too. Like, oh, we have this great chance to get a matching grant to fix a culvert, so we're gonna go for it. Even though it wasn't in the master plan, or, it wasn't in the CIP, But it's an opportunity that we can't pass up. And so though, we need the flexibility to be able to deal with that as well.
Right, there's always gonna be outliers too like that.
Yeah.
But I think the only way it ever is gonna change and be more coordinated is through some sort of accountability. I really
That's
think
where the
that's the
charter
only,
comes in. Like,
right.
how do we put into the charter something that creates a system of accountability for just that? Because I also, like, I'm not young enough or naive enough to assume, like, efficiency is ever going to be something that, like, is born out of the government. Greater alignment.
Right.
And greater, like, the ability to prioritize, like, within, where are we going to spend our long-term resources based upon where we're trying to get, because we have a unified vision of what the community is trying to get to. And I know there's been so much work on the master plan that I think provides for the clearest enumeration of that, like I've seen in my time since being involved locally.
Can I say one more thing about
Of
that?
course.
I think we, again, I think great ambitions, to improve this. I think we need to set expectations as well. I think where we can really benefit is keeping it present, frontal lobe, the CIP process, the capital improvement process, always talking about it, not as a yearly thing where it's just all thought of in summer. It needs to be present.
I think if we can
Do that.
then a shift will happen.
I had a lifelong moment.
See, there we go. You're welcome.
Getting a lot of these. Charge, like, what if we charge in the charter, capital improvement committee, with like codifying what our like priorities are, based on based on inputs from the master plan, our long-term planning priorities. Like, it's just an idea, it could be wacky, I'm sure it's wacky, but something.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay, tell me more, yeah.
Well, I don't think that's a good idea because what you're doing, you're asking 5, 7, 9 people
Yeah.
who aren't that engaged in the day-to-day stuff to make long-term decisions that maybe aren't qualified to make them.
We're proposing priorities that get approved at like a council level or something.
But that's no different than it is now.
That's what right now, they just approve everything. Everything goes through like, this is good, this is good.
Well,
I, two, and again, I'm gonna sound repetitive, but the thought keeps coming forward, and that is, in the corporate world, the CEO makes a report annually, quarterly, or whatever is the shareholders' demand. Here's where we are in our master plan. Here's where we are in our CIP. Here's where we're missing the goal. Here's where we're getting a goal. And in the corporate world, that discussion is generally number one objective on the CEO's list. That's their job. And
But Al, in today's Newmarket, I'm not so sure that clear direction is being given.
it isn't. That's
And-
exactly,
You could here.
it's exactly my point. And if we were to include that, I'm going to repeat again, back in the CEO's job, and I like the term CEO because that's what this job is. It's not a town manager, it's a CEO of this $25 million company. Is that what we are, budget? Something like that?
And then they're
Do you
bringing
include the school in that?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yes.
$8 million.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the number one objective, and it's the number one thing we want that individual to focus on. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it could be.
This is a plan your work your plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I've seen where councils or boards of selectmen have sat with the town manager, CEO, at the beginning of the year, said, here's our top 5 priorities.
Right.
And at the end of the year, they sit and go
How
through
you
them.
get paid, by the way, buddy.
Well,
Yeah.
But
if you're going to redefine the town manager's role that way, and I think it's a good idea, you probably also need to devote a little ink to redefining the council's role, because they
Yes.
are the board who oversees the CEO, and if you don't have strong management in that direction, then you're just gonna get a group of 7 people who are led around by the nose, and
I would say that that's the case now, right? Not that they're being led by the nose, I
Yeah.
don't mean that, but they have the authority. The town manager has responsibilities to the town council and has responsibilities to the public. the town manager reports, I think, monthly on the budget, right? That's included in the packet. Does anybody comment on that? And on the council level? No, and haven't for years. So it goes both ways. You know, and the council needs to hold the town manager as responsible. So those mechanisms are there, they're just not being used.
But Tony, I haven't done the calculation, but we're only talking about 25% of what the tax rate is, because the other 70 to 75% is the school.
Yeah.
And
But that's not
That's
what we're
outside
talking
of
about.
our,
That's not-
outside of our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you
Well,
can't
but
spend
if
it
you're
as wisely as
talking-
possible.
if you're talking about this, and if what we have is the potential ability to codify what we would like to be addressed in the State of the Union, or in some regular reporting from the entities that we pay taxes, and that maybe is the only power we have, is the structure. We want to hear a report on the master plan and the capital and the major goals. That should be something that is presented to us as part of what we pay our taxes for, and we should get a report in some regular basis.
But the charter has no jurisdiction over the school district. I mean, other than the CIP.
Well, although the charter is what specifies that the annual meeting between the council and the school board has to happen.
We could have
It, no,
topics to
it
it.
says that
Yeah,
the
I
town
mean, you
council
said
will
it-
invite the school board. That's
All
what
right,
the
but
charter
you-
says.
But you can mandate an agenda that goes with that meeting too in the charter.
Because the agendas are very
I mean-
The
wild.
agendas are,
But there's nothing that forces the school board to come or to pay any
But they've come
attention.
every year.
And-
Yeah.
No, but
and
but you can
do.
invite, but they don't have to come. They don't want to.
Well, they
Right, but,
came-
but my point being that the charter has no jurisdiction over the school
Correct.
board. And I think it's important to keep that in mind.
they got together 53 minutes this year, by the way. But I think if we can set a culture where this is how we operate this business, I guarantee you, Todd, and we got the chair of the school, you're the chair right now? Yeah. So start doing your job. But anyway, so, but I think if we could set a tone and a culture where we're gonna operate this place more like two CEOs, I think that, and the council, if I was on the council, and I was for 3 or 4 times, I'd love to be part of this business where the town manager comes in, the CEO, and presents to the council. He works for us and presents to us, here's what we've done so far. He's also on a bonus program, tie bonuses to how well you do on those. I think it would be a huge step forward.
Didn't we try that like 10 years ago?
We did.
And it lasted for a year or two and
It
then,
did, but I think
not that it's a bad idea, I'm just,
I think we've got a cultural opportunity here. The last time we met was 10 years ago. So, as a dear friend of mine once said, if you could ever pull this off, this kind of change, they'll build a statue for you. And that individual happens to be. No, not for me, not for me.
Standing in the center of Newmarket.
No, it wasn't for me, it was for this idea.
Yeah.
They will build a statue, and it's that guy right there. But I think we have an opportunity. You what?
own a lot of pigeons.
I do think, one, like, not to get into a town and school conversation, but if you look, like, the school districts' increases over the last years have been, like, so low increases year to year by what's happening in the municipality. I'm not, it's a comparison, I'm just saying, you just look numbers wise. So, like, just to say, like, the current superintendent is doing, like, a yeoman's work to try to rein in as much as possible. But I love the idea of how do we get this run more like a business, not that it's ever a business, because it's never gonna be. Or is it like, efficiency always the goal necessarily with government? But the idea of, what if there's like codified, like there's annual goals and there's long-range goals that like the council votes on, and it's codified like in the way that it gets reported to the council, there's input from master plan, CIP. I just feel like, how do you get, any organization that ran as siloed as we right now run a bunch of our like committees and boards and departments, everything feels siloed. How do we get a more integrated, holistic approach to the leadership of the community?
I agree. That's the challenge. Right. I mean, that's the challenge.
Build a statue. It's a race to the statue.
It's challenging a system that's built not to be able to rise to that challenge, because you can't, you don't have, you can put guilt on. That's what we did when we said, gee, have the school board meet with the town council. And I remember the first meeting was sort of like the Jets and the Sharks at the dance. Everybody changed seats and we tried to integrate them. If we can codify something, as Al says, and I think it's a great discussion tonight, how much can we do and where can we do it? And if we don't have the power that I had sort of hoped when I signed up for this, to be able to say, can we change the structure so there's more accountability with, then what can we do? And if all it is defining these organizations have to speak to the people and report back on capital and master plan and progress, and have something that we can flush that out, then at least we get a dialogue going. But beyond that, give me something else we can do.
Al, I'm going to give you the last word.
Last word, Bart.
I've got to go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Are we smoking rope here at this concept?
No, I think there's some things you can do within section 5, whatever it is. I mean, it's about, again, to me, it's frequency. It's valuing the master plan, valuing the process, buying into it. I think I don't know how you codify that, but besides like mandating more, accountability by reporting, but I think you just got to create a culture around and value the process, and that's how you do it long term. And I think it's happening, in my opinion.
Thanks, Bart.
Bart, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bart.
Really appreciate
We
it.
really appreciate your
I
input.
know you have enough meetings at night.
Any other questions before I?
We could keep you all night, so
Okay.
we'll
Invite
try
me back
not to.
to you.
Yeah.
I'll come, I swear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah. And I did forward the email from Val to everyone this afternoon, so you'll have, it's in your inboxes.
Maybe I didn't check it the right time.
It was late.
Yeah.
One thing, we talked a lot about CIP. Really, outside of the mention from Eric and Val's email, there wasn't any discussion on the planning board appointed versus elected. Is that,
Well, there was, he said that he
said to
preferred
do it?
elected,
And so did Val.
Okay.
and so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that
I'm working minutes here, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
her letter is, I propose we put her letter in the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was so
under
well done.
correspondence, I want to add that, and we had another email that I'm going to bring up as well.
Yeah, well, I'm on the planning board, and there doesn't seem to be any issue with getting people to run. Patrick, you were on the planning board.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You were a contested election, were you?
The first time.
Yeah.
I think right now they have a strong group of people, but I think a lot of the discussion comes back tonight to if you have engaged people who are thinking strategically and keeping things front of mind and being involved, then a lot of this stuff happens better than it's probably going to be happening otherwise, right? I mean, we could have an elected planning board that wasn't that great too. I mean, but right now, yeah, it's working really well. It has a lot of expertise.
Yeah, it tends to attract nerds.
Yeah, it has,
you know.
an engineer, it has a surveyor, it
That's
has
good.
a professor,
Yeah.
you couldn't ask for more qualified people to be on a planning board. So, yeah, it's great. I agree with what Bart said too. I feel like right now, the department heads are pretty darn good with the town, and they bring a lot of enthusiasm, energy, and new ideas to the work that they're doing. But it's somewhat dependent on creating a stable universe that people want to work in, right? So that is
Right.
dependent on your CEO. I think you have that to some extent. You know, people know what they're getting, so they're staying around.
The only
true.
thing harder than building a great culture is maintaining it.
Yep.
And there's the theory that elected officials are, it's going to be a less biased potential process or corrupt process.
I think back of, and I was doing it this afternoon, thinking back on the successes that we've had in town, and I'm gonna forget somebody, so please don't hold it against me, but the downtown development, TIF, outstanding. Planning board, outstanding. School facilities committee, outstanding. There's a lot of volunteer groups that were outstanding too, but those three, I think about and I go, boy, they knocked it out of the park. And those were 5-year terms. And great participation, right? Great participation, fun, hard work, expertise, and I wouldn't want to change that to anything other than what it was.
But you're asking essentially volunteers to sign up and recognizing that they may have influence, but not power.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And again, I mean, just to hammer on the point that we heard at the last meeting, if people don't feel like what they're doing is appreciated, if they don't hear that, sense it, feel it in some palpable way, they're going to go find something to do or some place to do it where they do feel that.
That's
mean-
the nature of it.
I can think of an example where the citizenry decided on a capital improvement, and that would be the dam.
Yep.
Right? That was really decided not by the government, but by citizens deciding that that was a priority and that they were willing to fund that and they were willing to fight for that. And that's, you know, whether you agree with it or not, that's an example of if the citizens are engaged around a capital idea, they will come out and support it. So, I mean,
Well, the school is a
the
big
school would be the other
example.
example, right?
Yeah, the dam should
But
have been.
this is a
yeah.
town thing, so I'm focusing on a town
Right.
thing.
But the dam should have been in my 4 or 5 or 6. The Riverfront Committee, I think, is hitting home runs. So we know what causes success, and we also are finding out what causes failure.
Yep. All right, I'm going to move us along here. On to the next item, and that's a survey update. And so just real quickly, the survey went out last week. So far, we've had, as of this afternoon, 258 total responses. So it's going to run through August 15th. So 258 total responses, a completion rate of 69%, which the information that I received from Steve is, as per SurveyMonkey, the average completion rate for online surveys is typically around 20 to 30%. So given that, like, we're doing pretty well.
How many did we send out?
Well, we sent it out via
That's right.
email and
That
on,
question.
yeah, so it's hard to
When you
hard to
say
gauge.
complete, you're saying they don't answer all the questions on the survey?
Yeah, they don't finish it. They start it and don't finish it.
Okay, so
Well, some of the
we've gotten
questions, if you don't
258
answer,
people responding so far, and they filled out 60-70% of the survey, and they skipped the questions? Okay.
some
And
of the
we'll
questions,
have-
though, if you don't answer them, you can't
Right.
keep going.
And we have gotten feedback. There have been a few questions, right, that I've gotten feedback about. One was the income question, and so that we changed it. There was some feedback about the cable. I forget exactly how the question is worded, but, you know, how, do you have cable, do you have internet, do you have, you know, so someone had concerns about that. I don't know that that was changed because they said that they used an antenna. I forwarded that email.
Yeah.
We didn't, you know, take all options into account. There's probably should have been another option, but I think that most of the bases were covered.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody feels the same way I do, but whenever I take a survey and then you get in this, you have to answer this question to be able to have all the rest of the work you've done, and you spin on that 40 times because that's a glitch in the system or whatever. I'd rather have whatever input we get that people are willing to give us than force them to get frustrated in finishing a survey that they just don't want to answer some of the questions.
Right.
I got some feedback on question 15, that it's the ranked choice one, that the one was the least important and 8 was the most important, the way that the numbers were. Is that an accurate? I don't recall off the top of my head. But
Well, you could move them.
But yeah, I guess there was someone had some confusion on like the scale of it and what the order was.
Yeah, I think an 8's too many too. I think it's like a lot.
There's a lot of things to drag around.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so there was definitely some feedback. Someone did say it was too long. So,
But compared to other surveys we've done, that's actually very good.
yeah, I thought it was very short. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the length of it. So, the typical time spent on the survey was 6 minutes, 3 seconds.
That was 6 minutes too long.
Right.
We want people to sign up to be on committees. They can't spend 6 minutes on the survey.
So that's where we're at with the survey. It will continue to run. I reached out to Steve this afternoon to Wendy actually, to ask for printed copies of the flyer and printed copies of the survey, and so we just need to get those distributed.
And
Well,
is
does
there-
does the printed copy have the QR code to the survey?
The flyer does.
The flyer does?
Yes.
Okay, because I want to
Yeah.
have that at the activity booth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
and one person can fill out one survey, or that's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, I could do I don't know if it's restricted, right? I don't know if I tried to do, because I filled it out on my computer, I don't know if I used that device. If I could do it again, I'm not sure how that works. If I could do 10, you know, I don't know.
If somebody tries to stuff the ballot box.
Survey.
I don't know that anybody's working that hard.
They're willing to spend 36 minutes. Down here volunteering.
Well, higher up, right?
Get their name.
Man, just run for the zoning board at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Patrick, I always tend to ask lots of questions.
Is there an update from your committee?
I mean, we've kicked it off. At this point, there's nothing magic about John and I or our opinions that say, we'll write this every week and get it updated. I think it should be coming out of the minutes and what the committee decides from this point in time. But it seems the mechanism is there. I'm even getting it, and I didn't get stuff before, so
There you go.
that's a plus.
How did you get it?
Via email. And there was an email from the town that had, I think, the charter on about 2/3 of it, and then a third on, forgive me for not remembering the other issue that was on it. It was a one-pager, and then it's been in the newsletter as well.
Got the text too.
Yep. And posted to Facebook and, you know, in a few different venues, so. Yep. We can do a postcard, Steve, and so I followed up with him again today. It was late, so we're gonna make that happen.
We'll continue to send out a reminder at least every couple of weeks to people. The survey's still active. And
Yep.
we're looking at that. Sounds like it's a good start.
Yeah. And then, so Backyard Bash. Patrick Patrick, you're up.
Yep, so my suggestion is we have our table, we have some treats at our table, so that means some kind of candy or something like that. And then we have some activity that in some way gets people to think about the current structure of our town government. So one idea I had was to just have a piece of plyboard, and put some different things up about town government and let people throw darts, and if they hit something, we give them a prize. And just to get them thinking, because we can have another person sitting there providing information, answering questions, engaging people. But if we can draw them in a little bit, like, oh, what's that over there? They're throwing darts at a board. I'm going to go over and walk over and see what that is. Because if you're just sitting, I've sat there with the table and you're telling them about, the water in the rivers contaminated or something. They might come on and see you. They might just go on to the next thing because it's more interesting. So we might try and lure them in with something. And then
With our massive budget.
I think the idea is good. The dart thing worries me a little bit.
well, it's just a suggestion.
No. I mean, maybe we could magnetic or.
Yeah, I can see what I could find.
Consider the average age of the backyard bash attendee.
Right. Kids walking out there.
It's usually families, is what my experience
Bows
was
and arrows.
in the last few years. Yeah, families walking around with kids
Yeah.
up to about 12, and the teens are just sort of running around.
The beanbag thing seems it's a little safer than the dark.
Do you have something like that?
It's probably just, it's a great idea, but I just think of people drinking and having fun and having darts and beanbags and stuff.
What about this isn't the right, I'm just thinking like a setup, like a beer pong kind of thing, obviously with no beer. Or like a ball,
Yeah.
Yeah, where you like
ping pong ball.
rather than a
table.
dart,
Oh, I see.
so that it's something that's,
And they put it in a cup, and if they get it in the cup, then,
rather
okay.
than a
And your
dartboard.
reward is you got it in the cup. Way to go. We'll clap for it.
All right.
Could it have
Try that.
information, so, I don't know if that
Does
makes,
the school have
if
a
that's
budget? Kick in a few bucks.
workable or not,
We
but.
are already doing our own.
And we could say it's a virtual beer you're drinking.
Virtual.
Maybe
The
chuck,
beer tent's over there. You can go over there.
maybe chucking something in a mason jar or something like that.
Yeah, I
Something.
remember going to the fair when I was a kid, and we would, do the ping pong balls into, like little fish things, and I got a fish more than once. Didn't last long, but I got.
The fish.
In
A little
the
goldfish
bag,
to
the
take
plastic
home.
bag.
There's the goldfish.
So,
Yeah, I did too.
something like that could be fun.
I have a wading pool. We could put little ducks in it. You could fish the ducks out.
I feel like I've seen something like that at the Backyard Bash a couple years ago. Seemed
Ah.
very much like a
What's
little
that?
wading pool with like magnetic ducks.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, they definitely have had that,
right,
yeah. I actually like that, because I don't think anyone did that last year. I want to just do something that's not stealing from somebody else
Yeah.
who may already have something. And maybe if they get it in the cup, we say, oh, well, now you've signed up to serve on a committee. That's your prize. Seat on the budget committee, there you go.
It's like finding the baby in the king cake.
No, the prize is if you don't get it in the cup, you don't have to serve.
So, yeah, just some ideas.
Yeah.
So what would we need? So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we need a table for our information.
We need a table. If anyone has one of those kinds of weather tents,
I have one.
Joe had one in the past. Like Joe had for the community energy group
I
last
think-
year. Me power.
Tent, so it's already taken.
Okay.
It's already taken.
I have a tent. It might be too big. It's my only fear.
That's all right.
I think, but I think
The only thing you have to be prepared for, if what happened last year, your tent could blow away. So,
Right, yeah.
When is it?
August
August
1st,
1st.
Friday, August 1st.
So I have a tent and I have a folding table.
Great, all right, I'll work on getting the board together and the other equipment. So I've got some plastic cups and I'll get some.
I have
ping pong balls.
a wood shop.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, if you want
Okay.
hand putting stuff together.
All right.
I got
I'll
sheets of
get, let
plywood.
me get your,
Yeah,
put your number down in my book here, Al, so I can.
I also
Yeah.
sent out a sign up, and I've heard from John Bentley.
Okay, well,
You sent out an email?
I'm committing to doing it. I'll
Okay.
be there the
And
whole
I'll be
time.
there. I plan to be there.
But I'm gonna be there anyway, so I'll sign up for
Okay.
like a shift.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it would be really nice if people could stop by to be question answerers. I think that's the big thing. Thanks, Al.
Yep. Cool. And I will get the flyers. What about other signage?
Yeah, it'd be nice if we had something that said, can Wendy print up anything that says Charter Commission? Does she have any larger printing capabilities?
I'll,
Joe's
Joe has an
raising his
idea.
hand.
Tim has a couple of big tablecloths that have the town logo on it that you might want to, maybe you could
There you
put over
go.
our table.
We just need the tablecloth. There you go.
that's good. And I was thinking that one thing we could do, I have no shortage of political signs, so I have like those, the thingies, the metal stakes. And we could print out the QR code.
Oh, that'd be
large,
good, yeah.
Large format and put it on that.
Okay, that'd
what's
be
the
good.
QR code gonna do?
It
Yeah.
takes you to the survey.
So if they
I
have their
gotcha.
phone and they haven't done it, they can do it right there.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay. So I'll ask Wendy if she has any,
Yeah. But I think the tablecloth is pretty good.
yeah, that would be good.
And maybe we just want to lure them in with the game and then we spring on them. Oh, actually, this is the Charter Commission table, by the way.
It's totally different, right? You're getting the kids to play the game, and then you're talking to the parents while the kids are playing the game.
Exactly, exactly.
So what's wrong with the beer pong?
Just no beer.
Because,
I think
no,
Amy
because
might
you have to be in the
problem with
beer,
us giving away free beer while she's trying
you
to sell
have
it.
to be in the beer tent area to drink beer.
Yeah, you gotta be.
You can't have beer outside, so we'll be outside the beer tent area.
Clearly, I'm not. No, but if I can be of any help to you.
I'll let you know, yeah, I'll let you know.
Great. Then I think we're in good shape.
Okay.
Do we need any other I don't know, anything to hand out, any?
Well, what do we really want to get across to people quickly? Do we want to focus on here's the current structure of our government, and here's what our question is before us on the Charter Commission? Because that's going to be the question that they ask us is, well, what is the Charter Commission and what do you do? So we need to have good answers to those questions, and that's what we're really should be focused on.
Should we print out the FAQ?
Yeah.
Would that be helpful?
Yep, that'd be good.
Should we print it out like in large format?
Yeah.
And maybe something that talks about what happened the last two times we had the Charter Commission. Here's some of the things that came out of the last two Charter Commissions.
And should the people at the table have kind of a dialogue to follow?
Well, that's why I think the FAQs.
You think that'll just follow that?
points.
Okay.
It's a weird idea, but maybe, hear me out, I guess, before you laugh. The QR code for the survey, we should probably get that printed in kind of a large format, so if somebody wants to just shoot it with their phone without getting close enough for us to talk to them. 'Cause honestly, sometimes that's my
Right.
approach when I see things like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I don't want a conversation, but I'll do your
Yeah.
survey.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, we can do those on like those,
Yeah.
so that they're kind of in the ground around us.
Yeah.
9, whatever that is.
People see a QR
9 by
code.
12.
Curiosity killed the cat, right? They're gonna scan
true.
it and be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's my experience.
I've never scanned one in my life.
Really?
Really?
Never. Does that surprise you?
Yeah.
I get upset if there's not a QR code thing. I'm like, I have to type a website in?
I feel like QR codes were dying and then COVID kind of
They came
revived
back,
the,
yeah.
Well, also, I mean, our last 4 cybersecurity breaches at work have all started with QR codes, so I
Ah.
Really?
encourage the world to be careful what you click on. They're-
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree. You get-
Microsoft will never send you an email with a QR code in
I
it.
try to be a Luddite.
Good job.
What else?
All right, any new business? I will say that after our last meeting, one of our commissioners, Chris, said, okay, now we need to start talking about the charter. We've had a lot of conversations, and now we need to start talking about the charter. So I think that that needs to be our focus as we move forward over the next, not that long, right? We've got August and September, really,
So,
and probably the first week in October.
so we're done the fact-finding component of this, right? The agendas?
I think so.
Like, I think we're, like, if we think about the way we paced out the meetings, there's a few big questions I think we all agreed on, right? CIP, planning, like, that maybe we can have the next couple agendas around discussions around one or two of those each meeting, so we can be like, hey, we're gonna come to decisions, and then it's like the writing, like,
Right.
Also would probably serve us well, certainly by the end of August, to just start drawing a box, or at least draw a box that outside the box are the things that we're not interested in touching.
yeah.
And that way we can focus on what's inside the box, because, we all like to talk, so.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, you don't say. I would say too that we have a survey that's open until August 15th, so it cautioned us to make too many concrete, this is what we want to do, while we're still asking people for their opinion, because then that seems somewhat disingenuous.
Yeah.
Is Chris recommending that we go through the charter?
He didn't necessarily have a recommendation. I think
Is that
he just thought, okay, now we
Right,
have a short amount of time.
right.
And-
But is that the way,
I sensed frustration for him last meeting.
I don't remember how exactly we did it last time, but I would imagine, we could do it any number of ways. We could go topic by topic, we could go chapter by chapter. I mean, I think that's,
Last time,
depends.
we had here are the big topics we wanted to make decisions on. We made the decisions, and then it went to chapter by chapter writing of okay, what are the edits that are going into this?
Yeah.
but not, I just wonder, if you asked me to outline all the issues within the charter, I couldn't do it. And I'm wondering whether, are we missing something by not listing the content of the charter? Maybe not, I don't know.
Do you mean going chapter by chapter and kind
I
of
don't
looking at
mean-
each chapter?
I don't mean going verbiage by verbiage, but chapter number 1 is this, or do we have any comments? Chapter number 2
Yes.
is this, so we don't inadvertently, at the end of it, go, whoops. A perfect example was what Bart brought up tonight about within that chapter. There was already an opportunity to use what was in that chapter as a tool.
It may not hurt to do, book one relatively long meeting where we just do a page turn.
Well, at least to see if any of us have issues after reading a
Right.
section and saying, do we have issues?
I like your idea a lot.
Right.
But not Article 8.3, but just, as you say, a page
But I
turn.
mean, the whole thing's only 30 pages, and a good 5 or 6 of those are boilerplate or,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But could we agree prior to that then people would have reviewed it? And if you
Yes.
have
Yeah.
something, you come prepared, it's not a meeting to discover.
you
Your
shouldn't be
issue
reading
with
it
it.
for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
right.
Discovery may happen by people bringing up what their issues are.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
fine, but
Oh,
but
yeah.
not using the reading as a discovery
Yeah.
period.
Shouldn't be surprised as to what's in the charter.
I would think that we could start that at our next meeting.
Okay, I like that idea.
Not necessarily making any significant changes, I mean, identifying any issues. And then after we get the results, so then at our meeting, the third week of August, we'll have the results of the survey. And so that can inform kind of the bigger issues and as to whether or not we want to make any significant changes.
Let me just play devil's advocate for a moment. Thinking about the questions in the survey, what would anyone anticipate finding in the results that would guide us towards anything concrete about the language of the charter?
Form of government. I think there's a decision.
Did
to
we
be-
actually
there's
ask a question about that, though?
Maybe not specifically, but I
No.
think that we could look at the answers of the questions and be like, in order to align with this, it is suggesting this form of government would be the most effective in
I
achieving that.
hope you're right. I just don't remember reading anything that I thought if we saw this percentage on this question, that it would lead me toward thinking we need a mayor.
But I think in response to your question, it'll give us people's frame of mind. What are they thinking about?
Yeah.
How aware are they?
How, and I haven't seen the results yet, but have you, I was on the Charter Commission at Bow, I'm making this up, and one of the things just an awareness, kick in the pants kind of thing.
Right, I agree with you. I didn't come away from taking that survey feeling like, oh, I'm going to look at the results and somebody's, we're absolutely being told that we should become a city. I didn't see anything in there
No,
that
you're right.
was that direct, so.
And I don't think if I'm on the 19th, which I think would be the next meeting in August after the survey's closed, if something really became apparent from that survey, that there's nothing stopping us going back to address that particular issue.
That's a good point.
I like the idea of starting to make progress on the review, because I do feel that pressure to get, because we have, just 2 meetings in August, right? We don't have 3. We have
Right.
two, and
2 in September,
and then
2 in October.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
coming.
Well,
Tick,
are we
tick.
allowed to have more should we need it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And then just a matter of, like a little housekeeping thing, I will not be here at our next meeting. I won't be here physically. I can call in, so I can't run the meeting.
Which meeting is that?
August 5th or,
Okay.
yeah. So, I'll make arrangements with Tim to be on Zoom or whatever.
Iron Fist.
You're about to get usurped.
Yeah,
This meeting's being done at 7:35.
that's the way it should be. All right. I don't have anything else.
I'll
I
make
think
a
it's-
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.